So for those who don't know, and for those who also call me a DC fanboy, my introduction to the world of superheroes actually began with Marvel Comics. But, ironically, it didn't start with a comic book. It didn't start with a TV show or a movie, not even any special toys or apparel. It all started with the Sunday newspaper, the New York Daily News. Not to be confused with the Daily Bugle because, that paper doesn't exist. But yes, I spent many a Sunday morning roaming through the funny pages, checking out the latest in Charlie Brown, Marmaduke, Dagwood / Blondie, and even Dick Tracy. But there was one strip that immediately caught my attention the first time I saw it. I, of course, am referring to none other than the web-slinger himself, Spider-Man. What was so enticing about it? The very first panel in every strip was this lean, muscular dude in blue and red spandex lifting a friggin' bus. Yeah, okay, I know that sounds pretty stupid when you say it out loud, but come on, I was like 7. This was friggin' awesome to me. I mean, the guy was lifting a city bus. And right next to this display in this image was always that captivating text, "The Amazing Spider-Man." Naturally, I read this strip almost every Sunday whenever my grandmother would get the paper. And most Sundays I was usually lost. You see, the strip was actually a continuing series that was spread out over several weeks, so if you missed a few or came in the middle like I did, it was easy to not have a clue as to what was actually going on. From what I could gather, it was all taking place in New York City, which automatically made it relatable to me since I was growing up there. The interesting thing was, even though I was lost sometimes, the strip always managed to keep me interested. Maybe it was the art style, the way they drew the characters, the way they showed the action, or maybe it was just because they knew they only had a few panels to work with each week, so they did their best to make sure each panel counted. And boy did it ever. I was so interested in this character that I simply had to know everything there was about him and the world that he lived in. So much though that I often begged my grandmother to take me to a comic book store. Of course, she eventually caved and took me to one close by where her bank was. Unfortunately, I don't remember the name of it because it's since closed, but I remember how cool the people were inside. I mean, they would just let me sit there and read like 4 or 5 comic books each time without ever having to buy them. One girl in particular who worked there actually sat down with me and told me all about Spider-Man's history. How he was a nerdy high school kid, he was suddenly bit by a radioactive spider, giving him these amazing powers, and how he didn't know what to do with them at first, but he lost his uncle because he was being irresponsible, and yeah, I'm sure you all know the story by now. But man, did it ever stick with me. If you haven't guessed by now, Spider-Man quickly grew to be my favorite superhero, and it all started from a comic strip in a newspaper. It's funny how things work out like that. Anyway, I know this technically isn't a review of sorts and it's more of a personal experience, but I wanted to share it anyway since this March Marvel Madness is going to focus a little bit more on this character. Don't worry, I'm still going to do other reviews, but I'm going to focus a little bit more on the webhead this time. But I'd also like to know, what was your introduction to Marvel Comics? What character did you latch onto and eventually become your favorite? Post it down in the comments below because I would really love to know. Thanks for listening guys, and I will see you next time where we will talk about Blade 2.